Monsoon.
Welcome to the Monsoon.
Oh no, Stephanie, there's a problem.
What's the problem, Andy? Do I need to call 911? What's going on?
Oh, there's a monsoon, and it's radioactive.
So you're saying it's an atomic monsoon?
That is exactly what I'm saying.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Oh, you guys scared me for a minute.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Atomic Monsoon.
Hi.
We have a very special guest rejoining us this week. Megan from the Sisters That Don't Do Anything is back with us again. Say hello, Megan.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you all again.
Yeah, Megan, when you were on a couple weeks ago, you mentioned that Cartoon All-Stars to the Rescue was one of your favorite tapes growing up. And this was something that I had kind of planned on covering at some point anyways, and I thought, well, you know what? Let's just do it, and let's see if Megan wants to come back. So,
Yes, I'm super excited. I rewatched it today to make sure that I was all caught up on it, so I'm very excited to do this.
And I watched it for the first time.
Awesome.
and I watched it 4 times this week because I'm insane.
Yay.
Lord.
So for those of you that are not aware of Cartoon All-Stars to the Rescue, this was a anti-drug public service announcement. It was about 30 minutes long. It was financed by McDonald's and Ronald McDonald Children's Charities. It was originally simulcast on April 21st, 1990 on all 4 major American television networks. So that would be at the time ABC, CBS, NBC, and Fox, as well as several other independent stations and various cable networks. So literally, if you were watching Saturday morning cartoons on April 21st, 1990, you were watching this. This was part of the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
Stephanie, I know there was still a couple years before you were born, but Megan, do you remember watching this?
I have very vague memories of watching this on TV. I mainly remember renting it from Hollywood Video after it came out.
Right.
But I know, like, all of the different cartoon characters that were in this film, like, I was watching them on Saturday morning, so I'm sure I saw this.
Yeah. I know specifically, I remember myself, 1990 was basically the height of Turtle Mania. So when I saw that the Ninja Turtles were going to be in this, I was very excited. And then I was slightly disappointed when there was just one of them for a couple of minutes. But
it was like Michelangelo, right?
Yeah, Michelangelo shows up for about 2 minutes, and then he's in some crowd shots later, and then that's it. But it is still part of the history of all of the various franchises that appear in this. This was produced by the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences Foundation and Southern Star Productions. It was animated by Wang Film Productions Limited. And the musical number, which we will have a lot to say about later, I'm sure, The Wonderful Ways to Say No, was written by Alan Menken and lyricist Howard Ashman, who also wrote songs for Disney's versions of The Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin.
Okay, that's amazing. I did not know that.
I did not know that either. I did not actually pick out that was their style at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. And while I was doing this little bit of background research, because I wanted to see, who was responsible for this, positively or negatively, whose fault is it? And so while I was looking this up, I found this article from the 21st of April, 1990 edition of the New York Times, which is the day that this aired.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a quote from a politician. Now, let me know if you've heard of this politician. Senator Joseph R. Biden Jr.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Huh.
Presidential likely candidate Joe Biden, chairman of the Senate committee at the time, called this show, quote, the single most ambitious and important drug education program ever attempted anywhere.
Wow.
Wow.
And he went on to say, if you are a parent like me, you know who the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are, and you know the powerful impact that those turtles, along with figures like Bugs Bunny, Winnie the Pooh, the Smurfs, and Alf, have on our children.
That's actually kind of awesome that he said that.
I am incredibly, I can't even form words. I'm in shock right now.
Yeah, just one of those things that I wasn't, I found this a half hour ago. Like, it was just last minute. I was like, wait, I forgot to write down who all this was. Like, who did this? I'm not going to sit there and read all the credits. Like, I'm just going to look it up real quick.
Mhm.
And yeah, in that little bit of research, like, here was this news article from 1990, and I was like, well, yeah, let's see what people had to say. Quote from Joe Biden. Wasn't expecting that.
No.
There you go.
Well, there
Yeah.
you go. Yeah.
All right. So I know I used to have the VHS of this, but I don't anymore, and I don't know what happened to it. It's entirely possible that I sold it to a used bookstore at some point, or gave it away to a friend because I decided I was never going to watch it again. Because why would I ever rewatch this after seeing it a couple times? As
As
an
an
adult.
art.
Well, yes. But fortunately, as we mentioned, Megan, when you were on last time, this show has been uploaded in its entirety to YouTube. Turns out by a handful of people, so it's easy to find. But the one that I specifically watched, and I think it's the one I sent over to you, Stephanie,
Mhm.
was the entire VHS from
Yep.
beginning to end. So it opens with a special message from the Ronald McDonald Children's Charities with a bunch of kids singing "Love Lifted Me,"
Mhm.
which they then reprise at the end of the tape. And then we get a spot with, at the time, the president, George Bush, and his wife Barbara, and their dog Millie,
Mhm.
who give us the message of the plot of the thing we're about to watch, and totally just spoil it.
Yeah. But I'm
Yeah.
not going to lie, if you put a dog in anything, you've automatically got my attention, and I'm automatically going to love no matter what it is. So
Okay.
good on them for putting Millie there.
That's that's good to know.
Yeah, it took me a second when I saw that when I saw the older Bushes. I looked at them and I was like, "Is that Bush Senior?" And just kind of like had a moment like trying to figure out the exact timeline of when this was happening. And
Yeah,
then it zoomed out and showed the White House. I'm like, "Oh my God, it is!"
yeah. 1990. Bush was in the middle of his presidency, and I listen. I'm not going to take away from George and Barbara Bush being on this, but I'm pretty sure that it was kind of whoever was president at the time is
Yeah.
who was showing up here.
Mhm.
True. Although later on in the movie, I just noticed in the rewatch that they do make a commentary on something that happened during Bush's presidency. So very quickly, though.
Oh, I'm very much looking forward to hearing what you have to say about that, because I don't know that I caught that. So
Cool.
Now, sorry, go ahead. So one thing I saw with the Ronald McDonald thing when it started showing that,
yes,
so you're correct. This movie came out 5 years before I was born,
yeah,
and what's weird is I think that song continued to play through the 90s because when it started playing, I had this weird like distant memory in the back of my brain suddenly go, "You know what this is?" And I'm like, "What is happening here with this song?" I didn't recognize the commercial, but I recognized the song, and I'm like, "What is happening?"
Yeah.
I think it's a song. Like, I think it's a song, like a
Mhm.
I mean, obviously it's a song, Andy. There's kids singing it in the commercial, but like you know what I mean? Like, I think it's like a pop song that was a song at some, like, popular at some point, and you know, the kids were singing it here because is that Boris over there?
That was Boris. I apologize.
That's okay. Hi, Boris.
We're kicking him out of the room.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I will admit, in my research, I didn't think to look up what song the kids were singing. So,
Well, it
It's
kind of
completely fine.
reminds me. It reminds me of in Free Willy. You have that song that Michael Jackson sings in like the beginning and the end of it or something, and it's that kind of
Yeah.
poppy song. It's very similar to that in that it you're right, it does encompass the entirety of at least my memory of the 90s, where you're like, oh yeah, that's just what it was. It was everywhere, wasn't it? Like on commercials and stuff.
Mhm.
So I could
Well,
see it.
yeah, like the Michael Jackson song on the Free Willy VHS, that song was recorded for that soundtrack, but because it was Michael Jackson in the early '90s, before any allegations came out against him,
Yes.
it became a big radio hit as well.
Mhm.
So, you know, again, like I don't want to discount anything, right? Like, success is success, you know,
Yeah.
regardless of how it happens. So, yeah.
So,
Yeah. Anyways, so then after the Bushes speak, we start right up with the cartoon, and we open in a nice suburban neighborhood, and there was a young girl sleeping in bed with a Winnie the Pooh doll and a Kermit from Muppet Babies clock on her dresser next to her bed.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see someone steal her piggy bank. And from the pages of a comic book on the floor, Papa Smurf wakes up and says he was smurfing like a baby, and I don't know what that means.
Could mean anything at this point.
Yeah. And he notices that the piggy bank is missing, that it was stolen. It's not there anymore. And he calls the other Smurfs, and they all burst out of the comic book to save the day.
Yeah,
You do.
Yep.
It was. I love that they came from the book, like just like they came from that. I mean, I know the entire thing is a cartoon, but just the idea that they came from this 2D world and like forced themselves to grow these 3D forms in order to interact with the world. I was like, okay, well,
Right.
You're
because
very upset for this girl.
Because something happened to this piggy bank. They don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's just missing, right?
Yeah.
And suddenly that, here come the Smurfs.
Yep.
From the other side of Corey's little girl, from the other side of her dresser, Alf just walks out of a photograph. Like there's just a framed picture of Alf, and he walks out.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did any of you find it weird that this little girl just had a framed picture of Alf on her dresser?
I did.
Because
I definitely did.
like I remembered the picture, but I thought it was like a poster, and I was like, oh, that makes sense. You had posters on your wall, but this was like a boyfriend would give to a girlfriend, like she was dating Alf or something, and I was really concerned and confused.
It's like a little framed 4x6 photo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so this a lot of people don't remember that Alf had an animated series in the late 80s and early 90s, which it was the story of his adventures on his planet Melmac. So it was the animated Alf. Like there wasn't obviously it was animated. This whole thing was animated, but it wasn't like they made up a cartoon of Alf for this. Like there was an Alf cartoon that was pretty popular at the time. I remember my friends and I talking about it at school. So yeah, and then Alf comes out of the photo and asks a lamp shaped like Garfield to help. And Garfield is voiced by Lorenzo Music, as always, and makes a crack about being a lamp. And then Alf threatens to eat him.
Yes, like
he eats cats.
Oh, he does. Okay.
yeah.
I was really confused. Like he's like, I'm gonna eat you, and I was just sitting here like, what? Are you talking about the fact that are you talking about the lasagna, or are you talking about Garfield?
Yeah, see, I never really watched the Alf cartoon or like the TV show, but like I knew of Alf in the Nebulous of the Universe, and the one thing I knew about him was he ate cats. Like that was the one thing I knew. So watching this, I was like, okay, yeah. I mean, of course he would threaten to eat Garfield. That got dark fast.
Yes, yeah. We're 2 minutes in, and already someone is threatening to eat someone.
Yeah.
In a public service announcement for kids, telling them not to do drugs.
Don't do drugs, but you can eat cats.
Yeah. I just okay.
Yeah.
So in 1990, I don't know about you, but I certainly did not have a record collection. But Corey sure seemed to. There's just a stack of records turned up on their side, and Theodore and Simon from the Chipmunks pop out and decide that they need to help Alf and Garfield and the Smurfs, and go get Alvin, who's watching television inside one of the record sleeves, I guess. I don't know. That part was kind of confusing.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
Yeah. It was very strange.
So they drag Alvin away. The Smurfs all stand on each other's shoulders and wake up Winnie the Pooh, who was the stuffed animal that Corey was sleeping with. And I have here that I noted Brainy Smurf's voice is still as annoying as I remember it being when I was a kid.
Well, they went out of their way, I think, to make him annoying in this one.
Oh.
Just like standing on their shoulders and, well, we're trying to wake Corey up, but I don't think we're doing a very good job of it. And you're just like, shut up, Brainy.
No, that's pretty much how I remember Brainy Smurf being. Is just the most obnoxious, like whatever you do isn't good enough for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he's brainy, you see. He's smarter than you. Therefore, he knows better, even though he never actually offers to help.
No, he just hindsight says, well, you're doing this wrong.
Right.
He's one of those.
Yeah. YouTube comment section, right? He knows better than you. He's not going to tell you how to do it better, but obviously there's a better way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's his way, whatever that is. But you have to guess what it is.
Ugh. I hate people like that.
Brainy was not a well-liked Smurf.
I
No.
can see why.
So Winnie the Pooh decides to wake up Kermit, the alarm clock, so that Kermit can wake up Corey. And then Slimer appears just through the wall.
Yeah, like that was so weird to me. I hadn't remembered that because I knew Slimer was in it, but each of them had their own little things that they came out of. Like you said, Alvin and them from the records, and Alf in the picture. And then there's just Slimer who's living in their walls.
Yeah.
And I'm a little concerned about their house.
I mean, oh, go ahead, Steph.
Oh, okay. No, the one thing that got me though was the Slimer part was really weird, but the one thing that got me was that as soon as the alarm clock went off, everyone went like Andy's toys and Toy Store and all just like went back to being like non-existent and immobile and like you can't see me, Corey, I don't exist.
Mm-hmm.
The moment Slimer got out, and it's just like, wait, what just happened here? Because later she's talking Pooh Bear, but it's like, wait.
Yeah, and you got that explanation from Pooh Bear where she's like, Pooh, you've never talked before, and he's like, oh yeah, you're right. Oh well.
I mean, I'd take that. That's reasonable.
Yeah, you're like, okay.
So Slimer just comes out of the wall, as Slimer does.
Mhm.
You know, I've got the first season of the Real Ghostbusters cartoon on DVD, and yeah, Slimer just would go through walls. So that fits. He's a ghost, whatever.
Yeah.
And then he ate her lamp and opened his mouth a little bit to shine a spotlight on where the piggy bank was.
Yeah, and it was missing.
And it was missing. Again, we don't know why, but it was.
Yeah.
In the hallway, the Chipmunks, Garfield, and Alf are walking down, and they hear a shatter. And Alf says something about like I would know that sound anywhere. It's a broken piggy bank. And Garfield says the line, 2 sounds you can't miss: a breaking piggy and the sizzle of hot lasagna.
Well, you know, if we know anything about Garfield, it's that he likes lasagna, so
Yes.
we need to keep mentioning it.
Right.
Yes.
Right. In case you're one of the 4 kids in America that isn't watching Garfield and Friends at this time, or if you're someone who's watching this 30 years later and
Like, what's
have
with the
not
orange
watched any
cat?
of these cartoons.
Hey,
Yeah.
look, I've seen plenty of Garfield cartoons. I've seen the movies. I've read the comics. I know Garfield loves lasagna.
I was
But-
not pointing that finger at you, Stephanie. I apologize.
No, I
Not
know you
throwing
weren't,
shade.
but it's like just make sure when you are pointing it behind me. Point behind it
Yes.
to the other people.
Listen, not everyone has watched this. But it is 30 years old at this point, which is
Yeah.
weird.
Oh gosh.
Also,
Yeah.
can we talk about the fact how all like Alf, Garfield, and the Chipmunks went from being like action figure size to the moment they get to the bedroom, they're their actual size from like their TV series.
So, yes, we can talk about that.
You really weren't very good through this entire film about keeping the sizes of the animated characters. Like when Corey's carrying Pooh Bear around versus when he's locked in a cupboard later. Like when he jumps out of the cupboard, he's the size, like this teeny tiny size of a head. But
Mhm.
earlier he's big enough that he's like almost as big as her torso.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing that I have learned about cartoons, specifically this is on the commentary track to the 20th anniversary of Transformers the movie. One of the producers of that movie, Flint Dille, says, yeah, when it comes to Transformers and scale, just don't think about it. It doesn't work.
Fair enough.
And I
Yeah.
think that's kind of true of just Saturday morning cartoons in general.
The suspension of disbelief.
Yeah,
Sure,
just listen, if you're at the point where you're okay with Smurfs coming out of the comic book, like the fact that everyone else is shifting sizes throughout this thing, that shouldn't be the thing that stops you.
That's
I think,
completely fair.
yeah, I think just starting this film though, you open yourself up to that idea of, well, this is what I'm in for. And
Right.
you're just okay.
Kind of forgot cartoon physics exist for a second
Right.
there and was just like, why are these things happening?
Because it's a cartoon.
Because it's a cartoon.
Uh,
Which, quick side tangent, has nothing to do with this, but you mentioned Transformers. I was watching Spaceballs last night on Netflix, and when he does Spaceballs, the comic book, it's a Transformers comic book.
That's
or coloring
fantastic.
book.
That's I need to go find that now. I didn't know that.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
That's great.
Just had to tell you that real quick.
Yeah.
go on.
So the Chipmunks, Garfield, and Alf end up in Michael's room, and they hide under the bed when they hear him coming in, and we see the piggy bank is smashed open, and Michael's excited that there must be at least $20 in there. And then Alf says, Wally never did this sort of thing to the Beeve.
Which I did not understand as a kid, but got a good chuckle with me out of as an adult.
Okay, Stephanie, do you understand that reference?
Nope, sadly that one right over my head.
Okay. Now, granted, this show's 30 years old. The show he's referencing was probably about 30 years old when he made this reference.
1950s, I believe. Yeah.
This would have been a reference to Leave It to Beaver. And the Beeve's older brother was named Wally. So there is a correlation, but whoever wrote that line kind of forgot that it was 1990, and most of the kids watching this would have been 10 years old or younger, and probably wouldn't know who the Beeve and Wally were.
Yep. Yeah.
I did not think to connect it to Leave It to Beaver. I know of the old show. I just did not think to connect it to that.
Right.
I thought it was a reference to something from his show, a reference to something just random in this thing. So that's interesting to know. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that would have made too much sense.
Right.
Fair. That is fair.
So Corey breaks into the room and Michael hides a box under the bed, and the cartoon characters open it and we see that it's filled with a bunch of drug paraphernalia. And Theodore says, "What's that funny smell?" And Simon says, "I hate to suggest this, but my guess would be marijuana."
Yeah.
Hearing Simon of the Chipmunks say the word marijuana just broke my brain. It broke it when I was 8 when I saw this. It breaks it now. Like, no,
Yeah.
Alvin and the Chipmunks should not be talking about drugs.
Yeah.
No, I think Alf's comment though of like this is no longer a cartoon.
Yeah.
We're no longer in cartoon world. I'm just like, okay, there we go.
I liked the very cartoony comment before then. I think it might have been Alvin was like, "Oh man, I don't know, but this could be a big no-no." Like they were trying to keep it more cartoony, and then they just went full like in the direction of nope.
Right. So for those of you who don't know what marijuana is, Simon explains. It is an unlawful substance used to experience artificial highs.
Still weird to hear him say that.
Still weird. Yeah, as weird as it is to hear him say marijuana, it's also weird to hear him talk about artificial highs. But hey, whatever it takes to get off drugs, I guess, right?
Yeah, he's the chipmunk with the glasses. He's the smart one. So clearly he's researched everything.
I guess.
Yeah.
Better Simon than Brainy Smurf.
Yeah.
Fair.
Because Simon's going to be explanatory about it. Brainy Smurf would just tell you how stupid you are for not knowing this.
Yeah. But not tell you what it was.
No. Just, yeah.
I think Simon's browser history needs to be looked into because he's inspecting a lot of stuff for his age.
Yeah, like that's what I was thinking. I'm like, okay, well, if he's like explaining what all this drug paraphernalia is, like, what else has he been looking up on Google? Because I have concerns, and we need to get Dave in here to make sure that he's not looking up anything too bad.
Well, actually, this has been the 90s. So this has been 1990, so Google wasn't out yet, so he'd be going to his local library into the drug section. I don't know.
The drug section of the library. I like it.
Thanks.
Megan, you work at a library. How big is your drug section?
Actually. We do have a small section in the medical area that's like homeopathic and whatever drugs, and that has a lot of herbs in it, though I'm not sure they're specifically what Simon was talking about.
That's fair.
Okay.
That's fair.
So yeah, the more you know.
I think I need to go back to a library. I've been out of one way too long now.
They've changed since we were young.
They've changed since COVID.
Yes, that too.
So, anyway.
All right. So the cartoons all decide that they're going to help Michael quit doing drugs. So they all jump out of the window, except for Winnie the Pooh, who stays behind. We see Michael meeting his friends at the arcade, and they're all smoking weed in the back. Now, I'm going to take exception to that because I'll tell you, I spent a lot of time at the arcades when I was a kid. My dad, you can say whatever you want about responsibility of a parent, but around this time, my dad would just hand me $20 and be like, "Yeah, go nuts," and he'd go shopping around the mall, and I'd just be at the arcade playing video games. It was fine. Like, I know that everyone is all uptight about kids getting abducted. I don't want to say that it wasn't happening then. It probably definitely was, but I'm still here. So
You
there we
lived.
go.
But my point is, I spent a lot of time at the arcade. None of those arcade owners would let kids smoke weed back in the corner.
Well, and like in the open too, they weren't even being like hiding it.
No, like if they were behind the arcade, like in an alleyway or something, that I would buy. But they were just in the building. It looked like.
Like you walk in and you're like, okay, well, there's Pac-Man, there's Wreck-It Ralph, and okay, there's a bunch of kids smoking pot. Okay, and there's GTA, and
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
While the Daytona USA theme is blaring way too loud.
Mhm.
So while they're smoking weed, this evil smoke monster just appears out of Michael's joint, I guess.
Yep.
This is not mentioned anywhere in the special, and the character is not named anywhere, like not even in the credit. But I found out his name was Smoke, and he is voiced by George C. Scott, who is the first actor to decline an Oscar because he was like, no, every performance is unique, and we shouldn't compare performances. This is stupid. You give rewards. So, yeah. So that guy is the one that's telling Michael he should keep doing drugs.
What has he been in? Like acting.
Oh man,
His name sounds familiar.
Yeah, because he does. So George C. Scott.
George C. Scott.
Pulling out my phone.
We're all looking at Anatomy of a Murder, Patton. He was in the 1984 Christmas Carol, Dr. Strangelove. So yeah, he's got a bit of a resume.
Okay.
East Side, West Side, bunch of movies I haven't heard of because I was not alive in the 60s. Jane Eyre. No, going through his list, this is a lot of stuff. So
he was in The Rescuers Down Under.
Oh, so he was. As voice.
Yes, he was just a voice.
He was in Titanic. So yeah, he's one of the jurors in the 1997 remake of 12 Angry Men. Been in a lot of stuff. Unfortunately, passed away in 1999. But he was 72 at that point. So yeah.
Okay.
So big deal actor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing a lot of big deal names.
Yeah. So then while they're smoking weed, one of the redhead kids, and here's the thing. I don't do drugs. I've never done drugs. I don't know every drug on site, especially when they're animated, especially in the level of animation that this cartoon has, which is, let's just say, not the best.
Mm-hmm.
Redheaded kid just opens his fist, and there's a bunch of little, what looks like white rocks.
Yeah, little crystals.
I think it's crack.
Yes.
Okay.
The only reason, because I had to research that, was because I was like, okay, what time did this come out? And then the kid says specifically, oh, I have this stuff. It's brand new. And I was like, okay, so what were like the new, quote, street drugs around that time that they were all concerned about? And I was like, oh, okay, crack.
Okay. Yeah. And he says that it gives
ecstasy.
Oh, yeah. See, ecstasy. I mean, I'm not going to say ecstasy didn't exist, but I think ecstasy was more of a mid to late 90s thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And came more in little tabs that you could put on your tongue, not in jagged little broken shards of rock.
I was watching this on my phone, so it was like really tiny.
Okay.
Yeah, he literally looked like he took a geode and like smashed it open and then was like, here, let's take this.
Right.
Okay. All right,
without explaining how to take, just let's do it.
Yeah.
Suddenly there's a police siren. It's going off and everyone runs away, even the smoke monster. And Smoke says, "Sorry, pal, times like this you're on your own." Which, not that they're hammering home that drugs will not be there for you when you're in trouble.
Yeah.
But you might be hammering home that drugs will not be there for you when you're in trouble. And it turns out the police siren was Bugs Bunny.
Yes.
So I have to say something about the police siren real quick.
Please do.
I was watching this yesterday evening on my phone, and my phone volume isn't very loud. It's loud enough for me, at least me, and maybe if anyone else was in the room to hear it with me. And my husband had just gotten home like maybe 2 minutes before this moment in the scene happened. And then suddenly he burst through the door And he's like, I hear Star Wars noises. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, wait, what? And I pause the video. He comes around. It's like, what are you watching? And I show him, and we go back to the first set of sirens. He's like, yep, that's a sound of the Tantive 4, and then just walks out the room. And I'm just like, what the hell just happened?
It was like drive-by.
Like, how did you hear that?
That's fantastic.
I have no idea how, from like door closed other side of the condo, how he heard the sirens and immediately was like, that's a Star Wars noise.
Well, he heard the song of his people and just had to be there.
It happened again today, apparently. And I'm just like, what?
Oh, that's fantastic.
Oh. You see, now I want to see like a Looney Tunes version of Star Wars, though. Like,
Yes.
that
Well,
kind of sounds fantastic.
if anyone could secure the rights to the 80s Muppet Babies, you'd get something pretty close.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, I
But
know that,
that thing
in
had
Looney Tunes Back in
so
Action,
many-
there's a reference, but
Oh, yeah. There you go.
yeah.
Bugs asks Michael why he started smoking, why he started doing drugs, and Michael's just like, well, because I wanted to. And Bugs doesn't believe him, so he pulls out a time machine and explains he got it from some coyote.
Huh.
Very, very safe time machine, clearly.
Yes. Yeah, because every time Wile E. Coyote used anything, it always worked and never backfired.
Well, maybe that's why Bugs got this one, because it's the only item that Wiley had that ever worked, so he thought that it wasn't going to work. So he's like, I'm going to throw this away. So he just keeps the duds.
If Wile E. Coyote would ever use this time machine, he probably could actually catch the Roadrunner.
Right.
Because it is the one thing that ever worked.
Mhm.
Yeah. Also, when he pulled out the user manual and it said Acme on it, I'm like, nope.
Like, this is going
Right.
to end well.
But knowing Bugs Bunny and anything he operates, it somehow magically always works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bugs is like the Fonz in that way. Like, if
Mhm.
something needs to work, it's just gonna work for him. May not work for anyone else, but it's gonna work for him. Yep.
Yep.
All right, smash cut to the kitchen, and Corey and Michael's dad is looking in the fridge and mentions that a couple of beers are missing.
Yeah, that was a random throwaway line.
It really was.
Yeah.
I think they needed an excuse to cut back and to introduce the dad,
Mhm.
But I don't know. Just, it was weird.
Yeah, I assume they were trying to like be like, oh, see, if you do this drug, then you're going to do all these other things automatically. And so I think
Yes.
they were trying to be like, oh, he's drinking these beers like the kid was, but it really wasn't overt.
No, especially when the mom suggests that the dad probably just drank them while watching the game and lost track of how much beer he was having, I guess.
Yeah.
Like,
Which is also concerning.
I was going to say, Dad might have a problem.
yeah, like, because it's unclear, it makes it more concerning, because
Yeah.
is the dad an alcoholic? And that's, right, is this one of those, they're going to confront Michael and he's like, I learned it from watching you?
Yeah.
Oof.
Wow. I'm surprised they didn't do that, actually. Like, knowing the rest of this, that they didn't have that moment.
Yeah.
Well, it could have been there.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it couldn't, I'm not saying it was or it wasn't, but it could have been.
hmm
Yeah. The mom asks Corey if anything's wrong with Michael, and Corey, to her credit, is being a good sister and doesn't narc on her drug addict brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think she doesn't understand that he's on drugs, but listen, I'm all for helping people when they need help, right? If someone needs to get help, like, you should help them. You should do what you can to. But when you're not sure what's going on, maybe don't pull the trigger too
Yeah.
early. You know?
Yeah.
You don't want to jump to conclusions and assume that something is wrong when things are just fine and it's just someone had a bad day or whatever.
Yeah.
hmm
So
Yeah.
and then here comes the part that you guys were talking about earlier, where Pooh Bear just comes to life and asks Corey why she lied, if you please.
hmm
Um, and Corey says that she's afraid that if she tells on Michael, he'll blame her. And Pooh responds with, well, perhaps, but what will happen to him if you don't tell?
Yeah, really ominous words from Pooh Bear.
Very wise words.
Wise as well, but also it's just like, I was expecting that dun 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 like sound to come after him.
if this was the sort of thing that would have had commercial breaks, that absolutely would have been a dun 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 moment, and it cut to commercial right there. Yeah.
The thing that I find interesting is I think Pooh Bear, out of all of the cartoon characters we get, is like the most innocent. Like, out of all of the ones we get.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty true.
Because he's
That's pretty
sticking
true.
to the innocent mindset of the little girl that he's running around with, while
Mhm.
everyone else is like actually saying the words marijuana and joint and drugs and
Yeah.
Yeah, good call. So then we cut over to Michael and Bugs in Flashback City, where the past is black and white. Get it? And they see Michael being peer pressured into smoking weed for the first time. You know, to which counters his point earlier where he told Bugs that he started doing it because he wanted to. And then we cut right back to the Corey and the dad in the garage. And Corey tries telling her dad about Michael and saying something is weird. And the dad says, Corey, being weird is just part of being a teenager. And I got to say, that might be the most true statement in all of this.
I was gonna say he's not wrong.
no, he's not.
Like, okay, yeah, fair.
I think where his statement was incorrect was that he'll grow out of it someday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is true.
Yeah. And then we cut back to the present. And my favorite line of the whole thing is Michael and a blonde girl and an African-American kid are sitting around a park bench. And the girl says, you know, for $10, I could score us some crack. And Smoke goes, oh, yeah, crack. Now we're talking.
Oh, my God.
So, like, punch in your gut shocking.
And, like, when he says it, there's, like, a scream behind him, like someone is being murdered.
Yeah.
Like he's like, oh, yeah, crack. And you listen, there's just like, ah, in the background for some reason.
Yeah.
It's not like a musical sting. Like, they added in, like, this terrified woman screaming
Yeah.
about the danger of doing drugs.
Well, and
Guess so.
the one thing that I kept wondering about, and it's probably not the one thing that, like, I should have been wondering about with this film, but I just kept thinking, how are these suburban white kids, I mean, suburban kids in general, because you've got the young African American, but how are these suburban kids scoring crack? Like, where are they going?
I'm not going to say that it's weird that the only time the black kid shows up is when they mention crack, but
I mean, you can absolutely say it.
I did have to go back and make sure that it wasn't the black kid suggesting that they get crack, and it wasn't. It was the girl.
Yes.
It was the white blonde girl.
I mean, they're in a very sketchy neighborhood, so I don't know what's really get it.
Neighborhood that they open up in, like, it's like little, like, suburban paradise.
Yeah.
Like
white picket fence place, and you're like, okay.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Stereotypes are stereotypes, and they are what they are, and here we are.
Here we are.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, these other kids. Oh, if one of you had more to say, let's.
Oh, I was just gonna say, 30 years later, we're still where we were in 1990. Here we are.
I mean,
not wrong.
You're not entirely wrong, and it makes me a little sad.
Pressing.
So after they talk about crack for a minute, they mention that Michael has some money because obviously he stole it from his sister earlier. And they try and peer pressure him some more, and then they just straight up steal his wallet. Like, these are his friends who, quote unquote, won't do anything too bad, but they just stole his wallet.
Yeah.
So where he had his wallet, it wasn't in his back pocket, it wasn't in his front pocket, it was like tucked into his pants, that at first when they lifted his shirt to steal it, I actually thought it was a gun. I was like, what?
Like, where's this movie going?
It's just tucked into the front waistband of his pants, like under his. Yeah, you're right. Let's be honest, that's actually not a bad place to hide your wallet, really, right?
No.
Like, except for when you let your drug, addict friends know that that's where it is. Like, if you're out, like, you're less likely to be pickpocketed when your wallet's not in your pocket. True. So, I mean, I'll give Michael some credit for that, but I'm going to take it right away for, telling his drug addict friends who want crack where his money is, or that he has money. Like,
Yeah.
I'm starting to think Michael's not a very smart kid, you guys.
It's 2 steps forward, 4 steps back with this kid in his decisions making.
Yep.
So Michael starts chasing after his friends, and somehow just falls down a manhole. Again, maybe not the smartest bulb in the drawer. And runs right into Michelangelo. And as I said, I was watching this for the Turtles at the time, and this part was a little bit disappointing. But, of the 4 Turtles they could have picked, Michelangelo was probably the correct one, because the stereotype of the Turtles at the time is that they all had the crazy server speak, and the one that actually did was Michelangelo. So, okay.
Yeah.
At least you got a turtle.
I did get a turtle.
You did.
I got a turtle, and he was voiced by Townsend Coleman. Like it was the correct voice actor. They didn't skimp on that. So, so Michelangelo accuses Michael of not thinking because he's high all the time, and then he pulls the plug to the sewer drain, and Michael falls down into a roller coaster cart with Kermit and Miss Piggy from the Muppet Babies, who then explain that getting high is full of ups and downs because, you see, it's a metaphor.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a roller coaster. It's ups and downs.
Yep.
Right.
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 This was the most drug trippy part of the whole thing.
Okay, so like when they were on the park bench before his wallet got stolen, they were smoking out of a pipe, and I just kept thinking, when you hit this part and they're in the sewer, I'm like, what was in the pipe? Because
Yeah.
I mean, it had to have been something a lot worse.
Yeah.
All I'm saying.
So again, I have never done drugs myself, and whether or not either of you have or have not or want to admit to anything, that's up to you. I'm not going to make anyone do that. But I will say, I have talked to some friends who have experimented with some things, and different drugs will affect different people in different ways.
Right.
So for a lot of people, the stereotypes of marijuana just making you kind of hungry and kind of sleepy are absolutely true. But one of my friends in high school, when she would smoke weed, she would get really bad hallucinations. And
Interesting.
yeah. And the way that she would describe them is the same way that other people would describe acid trips.
Yeah, because that's what this reminded me of, was because I knew someone back in high school who had also experimented, and she had done acid, and this very much was what she described. And I was like, okay, so what were you smoking?
Right. Yeah, so
Okay.
they're riding the roller coaster, and there's a bunch of weird drug trippy kind of things.
Mhm.
And Miss Piggy has probably the best line of this segment, where she says, "This isn't romantic. This isn't even pretty."
Yep.
Which, I mean, that line alone, I think, says everything you need to know about Miss Piggy. Period.
She's in the wrong movie is what's happening. Like, she just showed up on set one day and they put her in the wrong film.
That's very
Yeah.
true. So Gonzo shows up at some point during the roller coaster ride. So Kermit and Piggy and Gonzo and Michael are all inside Michael's head, watching him smoking weed and failing at skateboarding. The Muppet Babies all bail, but Michael's stuck inside his head, and there's a locked door. And then Michael just I'm going to say, I know we're a family-friendly podcast, but A, we're talking about drugs, and B, dude, Michael just eats shit here and just face plants off that skateboard.
Yeah. And he
really
wakes
does.
up on the grass, like
Right.
miles from where he was running. So
He wakes up, and there's Huey, Dewey, and Louie, who ask him why he didn't just say no, or if he even knows how, and then break into song.
Yep. It's interesting
All right.
seeing Huey, Dewey, and Louie, because I'm watching the new DuckTales right now, and it's like interesting seeing the old version of them. I'm like, oh, what's up?
Oh,
You
yeah.
guys don't sound like this now.
yeah, no.
So,
I don't have a lot to say about this song, except it's called A Million Wonderful Ways to Say No. And I wrote down all of the ways that they suggest.
okay. Go
There's
ahead.
not a million.
No.
There are 21. But the ways that they say no are no thanks, no way, no dice, no sir. You can spit in their eye.
Mhm.
You can say those drugs are so boring. You can tell them you're in training for football. In Berlin, they just say 9, and they tell me that one's fine. You can say beat it, get lost, get out of my face with that stuff. I'll catch you guys later, okay? You can say I've got too much homework, it's rough. You can say I'm late for my baseball game and I'll miss my ride. You can say my kid sister needs me, her hamster died.
Which is my favorite. Okay.
Gotta hurry home. There's no time to kill. You can say, so I'll catch you later, like heck I will. You can fake sneeze and say you guess you're allergic. You can say it's bad for your complexion. Or, as Miss Picky tells us, you can scream hi-ya at the top of your lungs and karate kick someone in their face.
I mean, that would get the message apart.
It really would, yeah. Also, I totally get the allergic one just because there are people who are allergic to the smell of marijuana. Like there was one day where I was with some friends at a restaurant and we were eating outside and there was this party nearby that was just smoking like just cigarettes, weed, whatever. Mm-hmm. And it was so bad that we actually had to tell our server, can we please eat inside?
Yep.
We cannot breathe.
Wow.
So it was really bad.
It's actually, as you were saying earlier, I also have never done drugs. And one of the reasons I didn't do or smoke any marijuana ever was because we found out through a whole family situation from an uncle that I am actually allergic to it to the point that I will break out in hives. We don't know what it is about it, but yeah. So I was like, cool, I'll die.
Yeah.
That's not good.
No. Again, right? Different drugs affect different people in different ways. True. So let's not kill ourselves to get high for a little bit.
Yeah. Right. And I know I've never done drugs or anything like that. And for me, it was because I was always involved in sports. I did marching band in high school, color guard, theater, film. I was so involved.
You were too busy.
I was just too busy for it.
Like, I have too much to do. I can't. Okay.
Exactly.
I love it.
I will say probably the DARE program actually worked on me. Like, I know people will go down like in his, like, the record is that the DARE is maybe the most failed anti-drug program or whatever. But like, I don't know, the horror stories that the cops that came to the school that they told, like, they scared me.
Yeah.
And this was not the only anti-drug PSA special. It's probably just the most infamous one because it had the most crossover in it. But also, when I was a freshman in high school, like, my mom just straight up said to me, she was like, listen, here's the thing. I know you're in high school. I know you're going to have friends that are doing drugs. If you want to go try smoking weed, go ahead and do it. But just know that I can't afford to bail you out of jail if you get caught. And I was like, well, okay, you just took all the cool rebellion away.
Yep.
And you just told me that if I'm dumb enough to get caught, which I probably will be because I'll be high, I'm just going to be stuck in jail or whatever you do to 14, 15-year-olds that get caught.
Yeah.
So, like, now it's not cool and rebellious, so that takes the pleasure away, and I'm going to be stuck in jail. Like, cool, I don't want to do it now.
Yeah. So, like, okay, good job, Mom.
Yeah. I don't know. Do either of you have anything else to say about the song? Because I feel like it's kind of the high point of this whole thing.
Yeah, I really don't have much else. It's just it's a short little song. Some of the lines are easy to understand. Some of them aren't because of the character that's saying them and the way the character speaks.
Very true. Yeah.
But no, I don't have anything to say to this. So.
Yeah. Well, the one thing that I will say is in the very beginning of the song, when they have the in German they say 9 and they say tell me that's fine. Alf is breaking through a wall to say that, and it's actually the Berlin Wall, which was what I was saying at the beginning. It was a reference to what happened during George Bush's presidency.
Got it. Yeah, because the Berlin Wall came down that year or the year before. Yeah,
you're something like that. So I was like, okay, there's the nod to him.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Good call. And I Megan, you and Kristen had mentioned the reanimated version of this song on YouTube.
I love it so much.
I did watch that, and I sent that to Stephanie last night as well.
What'd you guys think?
I appreciated seeing a whole bunch of different styles. But the one thing I will say, the one thing that really stuck with me is that anytime ducks are animated as having teeth, it makes me really uncomfortable. And I don't know why.
Yeah. I mean, it's fair. Duck teeth are horrifying.
Mhm.
It's that, and then it's pretty much anytime they give any animal human teeth, right?
Mhm.
There's always like weird commercials where there's CGI people teeth into dogs to make them talk, or even some of the pet food. Like there's a smiling dog, and it's like dogs don't have people teeth, guys. Like people teeth and animals that don't have people teeth just bother me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for me it was I think I actually recognized a couple of the animators just because I think they still make things on YouTube.
Oh, cool.
Sure. Mhm.
But that was the moment where I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure I'm now on some type of drug because this is really weird.
Yes.
Because it kept changing animations and styles, and like some of them were really, really nice, some of them were really, really weird. And
Like the
it's
ones
just
where they're melting.
Yeah.
no, I'm just like, did someone open the Ark of the Covenant? What's happening?
So I just noticed the time, and we are going to go over time on our allotted time slot on Voice America. So to anyone listening there, if you want to hear the rest of this episode, you're going to have to find it and download it. To anyone who did download it to listen to you to us, which is most of you, keep listening. And here we go.
Yay.
So after the song, Michael wakes up. And Corey breaks in the room and says that her stuffed toy has been talking to her because, Michael's the one on drugs. And Corey asks why things can't be like they were before. And Michael says it's just not like it was before and grabs her arm so hard that he hurts her. And she runs out of the room, and Smoke calls her a pesky brat because, addiction monsters are classy gentlemen.
Mhm.
Michael opens up his drug box to look inside, and apparently the back of it is now a mirror, which it may or may not have been before. I don't know.
Weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Alf appears in that mirror and tells Michael that he looks gross. And then somehow they end up walking through a house of mirrors,
Yeah.
and Michael sees himself as a zombie because, drugs turn you into a zombie. They murder you and reanimate you, I guess.
Drugs
Is this
can
the message we're going with now?
I think the thing he's trying to show him is that drugs can recolor your skin, mess up your eye, like make you like lose a lot of weight, like
Mm-hmm.
look like a zombie, but in reality, you will literally look like that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Drugs will give you green skin and murder you. That's what I got out of that.
Okay,
Yes.
that is accurate.
Yes.
Okay. So Alf then says that Michael can't quit because he doesn't believe in himself or something. And if Michael doesn't believe Alf, then he can go talk to the man in charge. And Michael's like, well, I'm the man in charge. And Alf goes, well, who's that behind the door? And the door says man in charge. And Michael opens it, and it's the smoke monster.
Yeah. Because
Yep.
they really want to hammer home that drugs are in charge of your life.
Right. If you do
Mhm.
drugs,
If
they
you
will
do.
take over.
Mhm.
You won't even be in charge of yourself.
Yep.
And then we cut back to Corey going back into Michael's room, and he's not there because he's having a drug trip with Alf.
Mhm.
And she picks up the box, and Smoke appears and tells her to open the box. And then he throws Winnie the Pooh in the cupboard because, again, smoke monsters are classy gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
Corey opens the box, and then we cut back to Michael, who's back on roller coaster tracks, and Louie the Duck is trying to kill him.
Yeah, that was weird. Just like all of a sudden they're trying to murder him.
The what? Wait, so
Blue.
Huey is the red one, Dewey is the blue one, Louie's the green one.
Yeah, I think it was the green one.
Okay.
That's it.
It was one of them, and I wrote down Louie. So
Fair enough.
I'm gonna trust my past self because I don't remember. I may be mistaken. I know the color layout that Stephanie just said is correct, but I may have written it down wrong. And if I did, I apologize. Michael jumps out of the way of the roller coaster car that's trying to kill him and almost gets killed by some buzzsaws. And then somehow flies into a demon's mouth and down its throat into some sort of viscous purple liquid. And then Tigger and Miss Piggy are on a raft and they float by and toss him an inflatable boat. And then Michael gets hit by a giant ball
Yeah.
and falls down a test of strength thing into a bunch of jars, and he gets caught in one of those and smashed against a giant eyeball and falls into a wooden tub, and then a waterfall appears, and then he gets sucked up into Miss Piggy's soda, and then she spits him out, and he runs over to a fortune teller, who is Daffy Duck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not much more to say about that. That experience happened, and it was really weird.
I had to pause and like do the 5-second rewind on YouTube a bunch of times to make sure I didn't miss something there.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely did, because what?
Yeah.
Yep.
There was at least some sense through the rest of the movie, and then this moment happened.
Just utter chaos.
Oh
And
yeah.
at a carnival for
Mhm.
some reason. I don't know.
Drugs,
Smash
kids,
cut
don't do
back
it.
to, don't do drugs. Oh, except here's Smoke telling Corey that she should try drugs. And she says, well, if I do what Michael does, maybe we can be friends again.
Eh.
Yeah.
Smoke replies, that sounds right to me, because of course the addiction monster wants more people addicted to doing drugs. Also, I don't know how old these kids are supposed to be, but I'm pretty sure Corey's like 5.
That's what age was coming across to me, was like between 5 and 7 years old, and I was
Yeah.
like, what?
Yeah. Like Michael's probably a teenager. Like
Mhm.
maybe like 13, 14, right? Like
Mhm.
he looks young for a teenager, but I definitely knew some kids in junior high that were trying weed for the first time and stuff.
Mhm.
And I don't know, like
I'm gonna guess that the age difference between him and Corey is probably the age difference between me and my brother, which is 7 years.
okay.
Which is where he's old enough where he's trying these things, but she's young enough that all she remembers is the fond memories of playing together and having fun,
Okay.
and not realizing that he's growing up. Which that happened with me and my brother.
Okay.
So.
All right. Fair enough. Cut back to Michael and Daffy Duck, who can't see anything in his crystal ball because it's actually a bowling ball.
Oh, Daffy.
Because it's Daffy. So Michael replaces the bowling ball with a crystal ball, and they see his future, in which Michael is a zombie, laying on his back and going through withdrawal.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And then Miss Piggy appears and says, "We care about you, Mikey," proving that she cares by saying the wrong name. Because at no point through the rest of this does anyone call him Mikey.
Yeah, I think it's that thing how, Piggy calls Kermit Kermie. So it's that, I assume
Okay.
what they're trying to be is like, oh, look at the cutesy way Miss Piggy talks to everybody she knows.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I'm probably giving this more props than it needs to.
But I'm gonna. There's no other explanation for this. There's no
Yeah.
other explanation for Miss Piggy calling him the wrong name. So sure, great.
Sure.
Let's go with it.
There you go.
All the cartoon characters start coming out and say that they care about Michael and everything, and Michael then walks through a door and he's back in his bedroom because science.
Mm-hmm.
Sees Corey reaching into his drug paraphernalia box, and he runs over and knocks the drugs out of her hand and says, "Don't you ever do this stuff." And I thought he was going to punch her.
Yeah. I thought he was violent before, but man.
Yeah.
Corey then says, "But you did it." And Michael goes, "Yeah, I was a dope. I was wrong." And then Smoke tries to keep his clutches in Michael, and Corey's like, "Well, we can tell Mom and Dad, and you've got me to help." And they somehow throw this ethereal ghost addiction monster out the window, and
Mhm.
he lands in a dumpster or a garbage truck or something.
Something.
And then the poster talks to them both, because Corey did not try drugs. And then Winnie the Pooh jumps out of the cupboard and goes into the poster.
Yep.
And then Michael and Corey are so terrified that they go talk to their parents. The end.
I will admit, it was sweet when they had that little brother-sister moment,
Mhm.
but it was
Yeah.
still weird because everyone's jumping in and out of posters.
Yeah.
So I didn't go through all of the credits, but I did note that Roy Disney was the executive producer on this, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, I got the clue, and it said Buena Vista Productions or something with the old Disney logo, and I was like, huh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, the VHS was put out by Buena Vista, so
Mhm.
while this is not technically a Disney production, it was put out by Disney Home Video, which is Buena Vista. And then there's the Love Listen to Me reprise, and then they there's a hotline number for the National Clearinghouse for Alcohol and Drug Information, and they give out a phone number. So I thought, it might be fun on Atomic Monsoon to give out this number for anyone that is having problems with drug addiction or knows someone who is, and I could give out this number to get them some help, right? Because,
Right.
hey,
Yeah.
this is a show that people listen to. I mean,
Mhm.
not a ton of people, but some people.
Mhm.
So I thought, before I give out this number, I'm going to call it and make sure that it's still active. So I did that. And it turns out that number is still active, but it is not the National Clearinghouse for Drug and Alcohol Information anymore.
What is
It's-
it?
It's now a phone sex line.
Oh my gosh. Seriously?
Yeah, I called up, and there was this sexy lady voice that was like, "Hey guys, if you want to talk to some hot ladies," and I was like, "Nope," and just hung up. So
Oh wow.
Oh my god. I don't know if that's fantastic or if that's ironic or what, but oh god, that's funny.
It's all of the above.
um, yeah, this is kind of a trend, because there's the old 8-bit Nintendo game Who Framed Roger Rabbit. There's a phone number in that game that you're supposed to call to get the password to get to the next section in the game, but that phone number as well has been replaced with a phone sex hotline. So someone is going through all of this old children's entertainment from the 80s and buying up these numbers and doing something very more adult with it.
Wow.
Oh dear.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's Cartoon All Stars to the rescue, guys.
Hey.
It was a trip.
Ah, I see what you did there.
Yep.
Do either I feel like I've been talking a lot, so if either of you have anything else you'd like to say about this, please do.
I will say I thought it was interesting upon this, I would say 50th rewatch for me. It's the first time that I noticed that this was essentially a Christmas Carol, but with drugs. Because you had Bugs Bunny, who is the ghost of Christmas past, and then like Michelangelo was the ghost of Christmas present, showing him his present, and then you had Daffy, I guess, showing him his future. So that was interesting.
That is interesting.
Wow, I didn't actually think of that. I kind of thought of that, but I just didn't completely register that. Wow, okay.
I think you get bogged down by like all the other nonsense and insanity that goes on in this. So like it takes you a couple of watches to be like, oh hey, there's like a story here, and it's a well-known one.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
I think for me, just because one, I didn't see this when this came out, which oddly enough, when you said it came out on April 21st, I was like, oh, that came out on my mom's birthday in 1990, so interesting. I hope she was. I don't know if she was watching this or not, but it was just, it's interesting watching this 30 years later, knowing who these cartoon characters are.
Mhm.
Maybe not watching all of their shows, but at least knowing who they are, and going in with like the knowledge of how modern animation is done and how their cartoons are done, and immediately going, this is educational, this is teaching kids the right thing and everything like that, but god, is it cringy as heck.
Yes.
It is so damn cringy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you move past the cringiness and just look at what they're trying to teach, it's fine.
Mhm.
And I love the fact of all the character cameos we get, because they were still big important characters at that time.
Yeah.
But I still feel like I feel like if this was done today, it would be done just a little bit differently.
Yeah. I feel like if this was done today, it would feel more like the Uncle Grandpa episode of Steven Universe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, and I think part of the problem and why it felt so cringy is you had these people who had created it who I don't think they knew how far to take it. So like you guys were mentioning earlier, like, he's holding out those crystals and we're not even 1,000% sure what kind of drugs those are. It doesn't even look like they know how to use it. So it was kind of like, do the people making this even know how the drugs really affect you,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And that's why it was so cringe, because it's just like, you know, your 70-year-old granny coming in going, I'm hip and let's go do these things. That's what your kids say, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're like, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get that.
Oh. Well, anyways, this was a fun blast from the past.
Indeed. Thanks for introducing me to this.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Megan. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you for inviting me back.
Yeah. Is there anywhere you want people finding you online?
We have my sister and I, Kristen, have our YouTube channel, The Sisters That Don't Do Anything, and we do reviews as well as haul videos and just kind of any little thing that interests us, because we don't do anything, but when we do things, we go full hog with it.
Sure.
So there's that, and then on Tumblr, I am still working on conceptualizing and creating it, but I have a book review blog that I am doing that is going to be at Enchanted Quill and Ink.
Fantastic. And then for Stephanie and I, you can find us on our usual spots, Atomic Monsoon on Twitter and Facebook, Atomic Monsoon with the underscore between the words on Instagram. And you can email us any comments or suggestions or things that you like on atomicmonsoon@gmail.com. You can find all of our episodes at atomicmonsoon.com or on voiceamerica.com. And what am I forgetting? You can check our Redbubble store, buy some shirts or stickers or whatever. Or masks. You can get some nice masks so that you can tell people that you are radioactive with us. And I feel like I'm forgetting something else, but I don't remember what it is, so it must not be important.
I'm zoning on what it is too, because I feel like you've covered everything.
Fair enough. All right, guys. Well, have a great week, and we will talk to you soon. Bye.
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 Just say no.